All right, English teacher friend. So I'm excited about this writing workshop. It's a little unusual in the sense that we will be incorporating some social emotional learning components into the instruction. Uh, and I'll unpack what I mean by that in just a second. But in brief, what we're going to be doing is be giving a little bit of life advice to our friend Eeyore, our dour, forlorn, disconsolate friend Eeyore. And if you're familiar with my writing workshops. This is going to be no different in the sense that basically I'm going to Bob Ross my instruction and show teachers and students how to construct this essay while incorporating my templates, and that's one of the things that, I stand by is that my templates are uniform across the expository mode. So what we do in the introductory paragraph for this particular synthesis essay, you can use it for every synthesis essay: rhetorical analysis, literary analysis, argument persuasion, and even research. So, without further ado, let's delve right in, and I'll tell you what's going on with this particular assignment. So, here's the prompt. Our dear friend Eeyore is really down on his luck and is feeling beyond meh at the moment. Things just feel bleak and heavy for him. In fact, he just sent you a text that reads, "I was so upset I forgot to be happy," which is a quintessential Eeyore line. So here's the ultimate task: read the following sources and accompanying material carefully. Write a letter to Eeyore giving him a bit of advice on how to find a slice of happiness in his day. Draw from at least three of the sources. So here's the kicker. I'll give you a little bit of background on this assignment. Um, if you want the resources for this particular unit, I'll preface everything by saying this: the source packet is voluminous in the sense that I think it's 32 pages long, and I don't want anyone saying, "Oh my God, Christian's nuts! How does he expect students to synthesize 32 pages worth of material?" The reason why it's that bulky is I wanted to make a unit that I think would be suitable for ninth through 12th grade general ed, be rigorous enough for AP and IB students, and even honor levels classes. So, given that there are so many sources in that in the packet, I'm going to leave it to the teacher to sort of parcel it out and pick and choose what's applicable to their particular student grade level and what they're shooting for. So, if you want the supplementary packet, just email me. It's teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com, and I can send you these slides in this presentation as well. And just to give you a sense of some of the sources that are in the packet, one of the ones I like is Eeyore made some music videos, and one is classic. It's called "Nobody Wants to Be My Friend." And it's a great lesson to teach about conjunctions and prepositions because he uses the word "except" in the lyrics quite a bit. Except for Winnie the Pooh, except for Owl, and so to tie it with another source where I took Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements, and agreement number one, he talks about the principle of being impeccable with your word, be impeccable with your speech. So that tied in nicely. There's a lot of interactive sources where students actually have to try things like the havening technique, EFT, mindfulness exercises, meditation, exercises on samskara. So, I mean, there's a ton of stuff in there that you can go through. And in terms of constructing the essay itself, it doesn't matter what sources you decide to use. These slides will definitely help you articulate for your students and model for your students how to parcel the essay together with my templates. So the first question is this: how do I write the introductory paragraph? And again, for those of you that are familiar with my work, you're going to say, holy cow, this guy's not lying. We can always declare or invert the thesis. And that is definitely true for this. So the big thing is, we are writing a letter to Eeyore, so I want it to be in letter format. And in doing so, we have a choice. We can either declare the thesis or invert it. And ultimately, the prompt is asking us to give Eeyore a bit of advice to get him out of his dour mood, and what can he do to get unstuck from his fixed mindset and this perpetual self-defeatist negativity that he seems to harbor. So in this case, we can begin with the thesis. Just out of the gate, boom, drop the thesis, give the advice, situate it with context and background. One of the things that I like to have my students do is to have some academic diction in their writing. So I talk about tier 2 level vocabulary. And by that, I just simply mean your average run-of-the-mill SAT level word. Given that we're writing to a dear friend, it's a great conversation to have about, you don't want to be overly pedantic. You're talking to Eeyore. So, stay in your wheelhouse. And it's probably more of an informal paper than a formal paper, in the sense that we could use some colloquial and vernacular. And I'll talk about this in just a second. Maybe even first person. And maybe we would even use contractions, all sorts of things that we typically don't do in super formal writing. Sentence constructs are also going to be important for voice rhythm and flow. I'm a big believer in Strunk and White's theory that there are 12 different ways to construct a single sentence. And I have a lot of videos in my YouTube channel on this where, you can take a short, simple declarative sentence and literally rewrite it 11 different ways. With independent clauses, adjective clauses, parenthetical statements. My students have the ability to manipulate their syntax and make some good, qualified choices as writers to achieve the voice, the rhythm, and the flow. And then all introductory paragraphs are going to be exactly 4 sentences long, no more, no less. So no matter whether you declare or invert, 4 sentences long. So if you invert, you just flip it. You're going to end with the thesis. And that way you would begin with a hook, an analogy, context, background, parcel in, sprinkle in the tier 2, flex the sentence constructs, exactly 4 sentences long. And here's the glory of this. When I work with teachers, I always tell them that it's really important to Bob Ross your instruction. And what I mean by that is, you're the expert writer in the classroom. Give your students models and exemplars that you write. And in the process of writing my way through this particular essay, I found it easier to invert. Just in terms of tone, it sounds a little aggressive if right out of the gate you drop your life advice. One of my students, when I was modeling this, said, "Yeah, you kind of sound like a Karen when you're speaking to Eeyore when you declare." So it's softer, it's gentler, it's more friendlier to invert, and that's just something you figure out by doing the assignment before your students do the assignment. So most of these you're going to see the inverted paradigm, the inverted model. So what I have here are 5 examples that I would share with kids in a writing workshop model. And I would show them all 5 and say, all right, you've seen it 5 times. On your mark, set, go. If you don't have any questions, do your own. So each one is going to follow the template, pretty much to the T. So we're writing a letter. We know Eeyore's our friend, so we can begin with something like this. Hey, buddy, I'm so sorry to hear that you are down on your luck. But here's the thing, you don't have to stay stuck in your discomfort and unhappiness. In many ways, your negativity is begetting more negativity. It's more or less a vicious cycle that you will need to learn how to break free from. And you're lucky to have a friend in me to show you the way through these dark times. So, the kicker with this is, all you really need to do in the introductory paragraph is, position yourself as a helper. Suggest to Eeyore that you're going to help him through his dark times, through his negative thinking, and give him some strategies, some tips, some solutions. So as you can see here, this is exactly 4 sentences. The vocab isn't over the top, but it's got a certain intelligence. It's got a certain pizzazz to it that I like. But again, we're not going to overly geek out on Eeyore. So just a straight up inverted thesis. Here's another one, the exact same approach. Hi, Eeyore. If you're receptive to it, I'd like to give you a few tips and tricks so that you can find a slice of happiness in your day. Having known you for years, it's clear that you have adapted several unhelpful thinking styles that keep you locked in bleak and dark patterns that blot the sunshine from entering your life. Ideally, I would like to get you to think about your thinking so that you could cultivate your higher self and find some gratitude. Life need not be so painful. So I tell my kids, it's kind of like, constructing thesis is kind of like poker a little bit, where you sort of show your hand to your opponents and say, I'm going to talk to you about, like in terms of this. If we're going to trace the line of reasoning, we can expect a body paragraph that might focus on, the sources that talk about the science of gratitude and gratitude journaling, and all the ones that talk about, cultivating your higher self and shedding your negativity and your fixed mindsets. And maybe perhaps the ones that get into samskara and the impeccability of the word. So you don't, get into your textual support. You don't start quoting. You don't start paraphrasing any of the sources. Just straight up nuts and bolts thesis. What are you going to argue in this? And you can see the sentence constructs flow nicely if you're receptive to it, comma, boom, ideally, comma. So just simple little tricks like that go a long way in terms of establishing the voice, the rhythm, and the flow. And again, the vocab is nice, just simple words like receptive, bleak, really help this introduction out quite a bit. And again, it's exactly 4 sentences long. So that's how we're going to wield it. And again, this is one where students are allowed to say I. They're allowed to talk first person, which I think it makes it pretty accessible for them to write. Here's another one, going to go inverted as well. Exact same approach. My dearest friend, you first need to know that you are loved so much. I'm intent on helping you to feel better, so I'm going to give you my 2 cents and offer some concrete advice in this letter. Ultimately, I would like to teach you ways to monitor how your words create your reality. Again, do you see? Show the cards, right? What are you front load a little bit? And lastly, comma, I know that you will be 1,000,000 times happier if you accept the following toolbox of tricks that help folks feel happier and less stressed, anxious, and down. And that is it. So you just kind of front load, show your cards, right? Articulate the argument, or show the direction. There's no need, again, to start quoting. You don't need to, reiterate or regurgitate the prompt. A lot of our students do that. And keep it short, concise, to the point, be direct. So, good question here. Can we open it up to the first person? For this one, I'm fine. I'm thinking about doing this early in the academic year. And, ultimately for academic purposes, especially for our AP and IB students, I'm in New York State, so my juniors will be taking the Regents exam. We don't want them writing, first person all that much. It's not like a totally abhorrent thing to do, but, conventionally, you typically don't go that way. We're practicing here, right? We're learning the skills of how to synthesize, um, how to construct theses, and ultimately how to manipulate a template. So, totally fine with students doing things just like this. Hey, little buddy, sounds like you need a pick me up. I'm sorry that you are feeling so despondent and down on life, but there are some things you can do to feel better and to get yourself out of the muck of your negative thinking. The thing about you is that you need to learn some strategies to reframe how you see and interact with your world. I'm going to give you a few good concrete exercises to help you feel better. And again, it's all just about front loading. 4 sentences, sentence constructs. Tier 2 is nice. I like words like muck and despondent in here. Again, you know, we don't want kids to sound like goons or be pretentious or contrived. They're speaking to a friend, but we are writing, for an academic purpose. So here is another one. My sad friend. It's always the same with you, and it's about time that you learn better coping strategies. Your chronic tendency to think negatively is the issue. What Eeyore needs is less time in the head of Eeyore. So here are some strategies I've conjured up to help you carve out a slice of happiness from your day. And again, in each one, you just kind of state the purpose. Why am I reaching out to you, Eeyore? What's my intent? What's my, get fancy, and say, well, what's my exigence? Like, we talk about exigence a lot with students. They have exigence in this task as well. So those are some examples of how to do it. Each one was done the exact same way. And, model. Bob Ross it for them. Give your students plenty of exemplars and models, and they will be all good, and it'll totally demystify the writing process. The more you show them. So the next question is this: how do I write the body paragraphs? And it's quite simple. You're going to proceed syllogistically, same as always. So those of you that are familiar with my work know that I'm not going to say anything new here. So same concept. So if we're doing literary analysis, rhetorical analysis, synthesis, argument, persuasion, research, always go syllogistically. It works across the expository modes. So I'll give you a quick synopsis of it. I'm going to assume that most of you are familiar with my template, and if you're not, then just go into my YouTube channel and you can do a deep dive into some of the videos that where I unpack this a little more thoroughly. So, in brief, the syllogistic method comes from the Aristotelian tradition. So Aristotle ran a school called the Lyceum, and the rich aristocratic boys would go there to learn about polemics, oration, debate, word wrangling, wordsmithing. And oftentimes they'd throw out these big, juicy, essential questions. And maybe you read this text, Plato's Republic, where they throw out the question, what is justice? And all these philosophical think tankers step to the mic and they drop their definition of justice. And each time somebody comes to the mic, they basically utter a line of reasoning that is in syllogistic form. So when we argue, all right, our students in particular, when they write, we're looking for a line of reasoning. We're looking for cogency, right? So logic. So we want them to go from premise, conclusion, right? Be mathematical, be computative, be as clear in the line of reasoning as possible. So as an example, I could say this: premise 1, arsenic is deadly. Premise 2, my dog ate arsenic. Conclusion, my dog is going to die. So oftentimes in synthesis, students pretty much only present the second premise, and they regurgitate or basically just paraphrase or summarize the sources, and they forget that, the cardinal rule that the College Board states 3 times in the directions for FRQ1. Your argument is central. So when our students write, it's really important that they do it like this. So the first premise is going to be an argument containing a why reason. So up top in the thesis, you don't get into the whys. You just show your cards, right? So I have my students articulate as clearly as possible why they are taking that thesis. So why are you offering, Eeyore the advice that he needs to incorporate the havening technique or EFT or make a glitter jar, for 5 consecutive days, whatever you're going to propose. Why are you suggesting these things to him? So that is always going to be 3 sentences long. I'll model that for you in just a second, but in order to keep the argument central, it's really imperative that that why reason get articulated. Premise 2 is textual support, and it's the teeter-totter balance between quoting and paraphrasing. So students don't want to do one so much more at the expense of the other. And then the conclusion, and I'm talking the conclusion of the syllogism, of the syllogistic body paragraph, not the conclusion paragraph of the essay, is the links and the echo to the thesis. So it all comes full circle. And I often tell my guys that the first premise is a promise. So go shake hands with that first premise, at the end. Make it link all the way back. So students often ask, how many sentences should a syllogistic body paragraph be? And I have them shoot for 10. For all expository modes, 10 to 12. So I kind of put a hard cap at 12. Otherwise, they're going to blow V8 or, break the line of reasoning or get plot summative with the sources. So to keep it focused, keep it cogent, keep it, real lockstep line of reasoning, shoot for 10 sentences. So let's take a look at what we got going on here. The first 3 sentences state the why reason. So why are you giving this life advice to Eeyore? So look at what we do here. There are many reasons why you find yourself saddled with these negative emotions, but chief among them is the fact that you do not yet realize the power of your words. Language creates reality, and reality is ultimately a manifestation of the energy we create. To become happier, you first need to become more mindful and intentional with the words you use. All right, one of the things I do during writing workshops with my students is this. I have them put the first premise in the form of a promise. I promise you, dear reader, to discuss the following things. So based on the language here, I'm going to anticipate a big concentration on words and language and mindfulness. If anything else comes into the frame here, we're going to break the line of reasoning. So all the quotes and paraphrasing needs to be germane to that promise. Starting in the 4th sentence, and I've indicated it here, begins the second premise. Immediately get into the sources. So in this example here, we're going to take a look at the song, Nobody Wants to Be My Friend. So immediately get into it, but we have to be talking about words, language, mindset, because that's the promise. Take, for example, your hit song, Nobody Wants to Be My Friend. The opening stanza is a perfect case in point in that you attest that nobody wants to be your friend. What's a donkey to do except for Winnie the Pooh? All right. So one thing that my students do fairly well is embed their quotes. And there's a simple template for that called the 5-word rule. If a student places a minimum of 5 words in front of a quote and keeps the quote small, it should sound conversational, and then they can just bracket words to keep it conversational. So you see your in bracket here, so it'll teach them to do that. So we quoted, got to analyze it, right? Keep it beneath the umbrella concept of the first premise. Let me answer your rhetorical question. Focus on your prepositions. The word accept is so important in your language. Your lyrics repeat this word so many times as you enumerate all of the friends whom love you. So that's perfect right there. So, we're focusing on words, we're focusing on language. That's the promise of the first premise. So we got one source. So typically in synthesis syllogistic body paragraphs, we synthesize a few sources, right? Because that's the hardest synthesis. Synthesis is a plural word. So we got to go get some more here. In psychology, 10 unhelpful thinking styles have been identified, and unfortunately, your thinking and emotional patterns gravitate towards 7 of these tendencies without fail. Here it is. You engage in all of the following: all or nothing thinking, minimization and catastrophic thinking. Your mental filter is skewed. You overgeneralize. You systematically disqualify the positive, etc. So that comes from source B. If you focus on the weight of your words, do you see how everything is focusing on language and words, right? So it's really key that we do that because that's the promise of the first premise. So to keep the line of reasoning, it has to, all the quotes and paraphrasing has to do that. This could all self-correct. In brief, you need to learn how to be more impeccable with your words and learn that in expressing yourself impeccably is to express yourself in the direction of truth and love. This includes expressing love, respect, and acceptance for yourself. Source C. So we have enough textual support here. We have enough analysis. In the end, we're at the conclusion here. Wrap it all up. So let's begin by having you say the following. Many people want to be my friend because I am a fantastic and lovely person with much to offer the world. Be careful of how you cloak your language. Your happiness depends upon it. So let's go back. Do you see how we were talking about language and words in the first premise? Do you see how we're talking about language and words in the second premise? And we're talking about language and words in the conclusion. So it all needs to tie together, right? And you're shooting for 10 to 12 sentences. That's about it, right? So this is a perfectly cogent, clear, articulate line of reasoning that got constructed here. So the question is, what do I do next? Bust out another syllogism. Just do it all over again. Change the focus and follow the template. And I'll give you one more example. So we're going to go argument containing a why reason, textual support, links echo to the thesis, 10 to 12 sentences. First 3 sentences, get into the why reason. One thing I would like to impress upon you is the idea that happiness is an inside job. And fortunately for you, there are several things you can do to find a slice of inner joy and contentment. What we need to do is help you transition away from the patterns of your fixed mindset with some basic exercises and lessons in mindfulness. All right, so promise the first premise. What are we going to talk about here? Fixed mindset, and then we're going to give our boy Eeyore some tips, tricks, strategies on mindfulness exercises. Second premise begins, fourth sentence, immediately get into it. First, let's consider what one of your favorite musicians, Justin Bieber, does when he's down in the dumps, something known as havening technique. Buzz Mingan, the doctor who treats Bieber for his depression and anxiety, suggests that havening is a psychosensory technique that actually raises the feel-good chemicals in your brain on demand. Source C. And in the sources, there's actually a link to a YouTube video where students can see the havening technique at play, and they do it themselves. It's very cool. So we quote, we analyze. 1, 2, 3 punch. This self-soothing therapy can literally trick the brain into having happy thoughts. Bieber himself said it is why he has moved away from making depressing crap to upbeat chart toppers. Source C. So we just quote here, right? Quote, paraphrase, analyze. Quote, paraphrase, analyze. There's no need to stay permanently trapped in negative headspaces. Not only can you do havening, but you can learn how to become more mindful. Transition out. One thing we can do is make a mindfulness playlist on Spotify so that we can promote self-love and self-compassion in order to help you overcome negative self-talk. So source G. Unfortunately, you spend so much time listening to all that negative chatter in your head that it precludes you from experiencing joy. You often say things like, "It's an awful nice tail, Kanga, much nicer than the rest of me." And "if it is a good morning," which I doubt, source C or source D. So source D is a compilation of all of his negatives, aphorisms that he has. So we got plenty of support, plenty of analysis, plenty of paraphrase, plenty of direct quotes. Let's wrap it up. You're not alone, my friend. Lots of people establish fixed patterns and habits of mind that trip them up continually. But there's good news. It all can be changed with a bit of effort and determination. And again, 10 to 12 sentences. The exact same template was used to execute this. So that is how the syllogistic method can be used to construct body paragraphs. So hopefully you found this to be useful, and it's something that your students will enjoy. And you could do a little SEL, some synthesis, and hopefully engagement will be high. So if you're interested in these slides and the source packet, feel free to give me an email at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. And then just in terms of the irons I have in the fire, I'm going to be starting my summer short course series. So we have these 60, 90, and 2-hour intensives. I'm offering 5 of them over the course of the summer. So the Word Study Academy, the Nuance Academy, AP Strategies for Success. We're going to take a look at how the templates can be used to construct all 6 FRQs for Lang and Lit. We're going to delve into my alternative grading methods, and then I have a short course on my Plato's Plato discussion modality. So if you want information on that, my webpage is teachinghowtowrite.com. So we're also going to offer the 5-week mastermind a couple of times this summer. There's my self-paced course. I'll be doing some professional development with the National Writing Project, Perfection Learning, and then, as many of you know, I'll be presenting at NCTE with Tim Freitas and Brandon Abden in the fall in Anaheim, California. So lots going on. So hopefully you found this to be useful, and reach out if you need anything. For now, happy teaching and happy writing.